A shaded view.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Shewey, and I'm the founder and CEO of Happily. We're a global events company that specializes in carbon zero virtual events. And every week I catch up with a friend, a colleague, in this case, a mentor, and somebody that I'm just a super fan of, as I'm sure if anyone who's come across Diane Pernet's words and work is also there with me. I want to say hello to everyone tuning in with us live on YouTube, on Happily's channel, as well as hi to all of those who are on Instagram live for Diane's on Diane's channel at ASVOF, which stands for A Shaded View on Fashion. And hello to everybody that's in LinkedIn. Please go ahead and chat in where you're from, and if you have any questions for Diane, we'll try to get to those during our segment today. But let's get right in and started. I wanted to introduce you to Diane. If you don't know Diane, she was the first fashion blogger. She is really truly one of those people that I would think of as a real deal visionary. I don't know if you would call yourself a futurist, Diane, but I kind of stay away from that term, but I think but truly you have ability to see sort of see trends as they're emerging and see things before other people can see it. And you have the boldness to and the platform now, right? To really share those and support emerging designers, emerging filmmakers. Diane invented the genre of fashion film and is the founder of A Shaded View on Fashion Film, which is in its 13th season this year, which is very exciting. Diane and I met probably back in mid to late 2000s, and I was telling Diane earlier, she's the first and only person that I ever reached out and was like, "Can I be your intern? Give me anything to do. I will do it for you." Just because there's just so much that that we can all learn from Diane. So it's such a pleasure, Diane. Thank you so much for having a conversation with me today.
Thank you. I love the intro. It's a pleasure for me, really.
It's so fun to see you in your home office. So can you tell us a little bit about any is there a special object in there that you'd like to share a story about?
Oh God. Like I was telling you before, I never used to let anybody in my place. And suddenly with COVID, everybody is in my place. Here is a special object. A friend of mine did. It's called the Diane. It was our trophy. It weighs a ton. Miguel Villalobos made it.
Oh, Miguel, how awesome. That's really cool. What's it made out of? It's resin? It's beautiful.
Resin, and it's very heavy. He used to have to bring them from New York to Paris. And we'd have in different colors too. Now, this is one of my precious. Another Christian Estuvier. He's the person that he's a sculptor, does furniture. That furniture is all wrapped up, and he's the one that does all Comme des Garçons perfumes. He's the creative director for it. And
beautiful.
This is bronze. It weighs a ton.
Oh, it's bronze, but it's a really awesome pink color.
Yeah, fluorescent pink. People would normally think my place would be all black. They always think I'm living in, and I said, no, I love color. I'm just not wearing it, but I love it. I love the energy of color.
Your necklace has some color in it, though.
I know, I did that special for you. It's made in 3D. Nelly Seguri made it. Has like a little dagger that comes out. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Beautiful. Well, congratulate. Oh, thank you. I know. I was like, I'm all like happily, like bright, like for the.
I had to give you some color.
I love it. Well, congratulations. 13 years is a huge accomplishment, and I've always been impressed with just like your fortitude. Like you just stick with things, and that's, I mean, secret to so many people's success. But I mean, it must be so cool to see how it's grown. I'd love, for those who don't know, would you share a little bit about like the genesis of fashion film, a shaded view on fashion film, and tell us a little bit about how it's evolved over the years?
Yeah, it started in 2005 actually, when I was commissioned to do a film for the launch of, do you know the brand Iri Kishimoto? Half British. They were launching their first and what turned out to be their only menswear collection by the Gumball Rally, and it made a film. This, in 2005, I don't think YouTube started yet.
I don't think so. I think it might have been 2010.
Yeah, because the film, I was shooting like a mini DV camera, and the film when I post on my site was like this big, it's really small, not the size of YouTube. But they commissioned me to make a road movie of the launch of the menswear Gumball Rally going from Monte Carlo to, from Trafalgar Square to Monte Carlo. And it's an 18-minute film. You can find it on my Vimeo channel. It's really vintage blogging.
What does vintage vloggy look like? I wish we would have pulled up that clip, but describe vintage vloggy.
Well, when you look at it, it's called adventure of pleasure. And you see, it's kind of hard to describe. It's just like at the very beginning of blogging. Because what happened was, I got this commission to do the road movie, and meanwhile, I was starting something called Life Blogging. Nina.net had asked me, it's when Nokia was like a blue, really thick.
Oh yeah, and you used to play Snake on it in the Metro.
And I decided, okay, I'm going to make the film on the mini DV camera, and I'm also going to live blog it before Twitter and everything else. But every time you had a problem, the carrier, like SFR, they didn't know what you're talking about. It's passing through their service. But we had a problem, she had to call Finland, to Nokia, to sort things out. It was that beta stage.
Wow. Amazing.
Anyway, that film, I showed it to one of my collaborators on the blog, lived in LA. Because since 2000, when I was making films with Disciple Films, Alex Chefertinsky, who's really advanced in all kind of digital manipulations, he's excellent. But I was working with him making fashion films from 2000 to 2005. And anyway, I showed the film, 18 minutes, to this guy Dino, and he said, you want to screen it in LA? And I said, I don't want to just screen my film, we'll make a festival. Because I had been thinking about it for years. But in 2005, 2006, there wasn't very much out there. Actually, Bernard William had some great things with interesting people. Nick Knight. There wasn't a lot, but I did it in CineSpace, Hollywood Boulevard. That was a whole story. I don't know how much I should get into it, because we got the space for free. Then they double booked it because Terminator 2 came out, and Terminator 2 was paying for the space.
It's like fashion in Hollywood, like clashing.
And you know Kelly Catrone from People's Revolution?
Oh yeah, Callie Catrone, of course.
Yeah, Kelly was my savior because, you know, Dino was like useless. He calls me, I'm on my way to LA. I know like no one in LA. Well, actually, I knew two people, but I hadn't seen them in decades. But they were saving grace. And he says, "Oh well, we can't have the space now. They've double booked it. I'm already like on my way to LA from Paris."
From Paris, yeah.
And I call Kelly, and I tell her the story, and she goes, "Wait a minute, you know, I'll take care of this." And she like called like Cinespace, and it was kind of like, you know, one of those stories like,
you don't want a call from Kelly for sure.
You don't.
She's a fixer. I love her for that. I mean, a legendary fixer.
She's a fixer. Another funny anecdote. I don't want to make it too long, but you see, this is my favorite trophy here, the Diane by Miguel. But for that, particularly the first edition, there was a guy in Iceland called Nani, an artist. And I said, I need a trophy. You're an artist, make something, whatever you want. And Dino, who was a collaborator at the time, he happened to be in Paris with his own exhibition photo. And I'd asked
Dino Dinko, fashion photographer, also filmmaker, right?
Yeah, total nightmare to work with.
We do love him. We love him, though.
Very good filmmaker, very good writer, but as a human being, you don't want to work with him. But anyway, I said to Dino, can you take the trophy back with you? And he accidentally forgot it. He never wanted to take it. And what it was about this big. It was an owl, and it was kind of waxy white painted. And so he left it here. And I said to Kelly, you know, now, like, you know, Dino left the trophy, and I don't know how I'm going to get it out there. I can't take it with me because. So she said, well, call the artist. I'll send it for you to Federal Express. You know, I help you. So I called Nani and I said, so what is it made of? And he goes, skin, bones. It was an actual owl.
Oh, you know, my God. You can't just FedEx that.
We did. We didn't say what it was.
Oh, you did.
We said it was wood and I don't know what, you know. But then my friend, I had a friend in LA, Brian Becker, he said, he saw it, and he said, you can't give anybody a trophy that's an owl, because that's, you know, an owl is like, you know, such a high bird, you can't, it'd be bad luck. So I told Dino, he kept the bird himself. I said, it's bad luck, we can't give it, we have to give it a burial. But anyway, that was my first fashion film festival at Cinespace.
Wild.
With the problem with Terminator 2.
Terminator 2 and the owl.
Imagine the owl's on the desk at the entry, and you've got like this big cutout of Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever, and this heavy metal band, and everything the opposite of me. And
yeah.
And I was staying at Cherry Vanilla's. Cherry Vanilla, you know who she is? She used to be the agent for David Bowie during Ziggy Stardust days. And I said, neither Dino and I want to be up front, you know, presenting the festival. Please do it. And she did. So anyway, from that 2 years, I worked with Dino. But how it worked out was, because it's the first fashion film festival, there was a biannual film festival in London, which I also had a film in, and much different, and it was more vintage films, fashion in films. It still is. I think it's called Fashion in Film. But Marquetta. But
Because that's a key distinguishment, right? Is that there's fashion in film, but a fashion film is a film that is all devoted to fashion.
Well, for me, it's more devoted to film.
Okay, tell me. Yeah, correct. So,
fashion's like a protagonist. If the fashion's horrible, you can't call it a fashion film. But I like I like storytelling. That's what I love. And to me, it's like why I mentioned that film earlier that we're going to show later, the surveillance film. It's a story that you get into, and the protagonist is wearing clothes, but it's not like here's the bag, here's the shoe. I don't like things like that, which was the beginnings of fashion film, which I know we'll talk about later. But anyway, after 2 years, Dina was in charge of LA and San Francisco, and I got like 12 other countries. And I started to think, like, I'm doing all the work. And if I say I need something's an emergency and you answer me in a week, I took the decision, obviously. So I thought, what am I working with this guy for? I'm doing everything. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start my own. And I had to change the name quickly because I didn't want to use the name we were using. We didn't own it anyway. It was part of a record from Rod Stewart, Wear It, You Wear It Well.
Right.
We just appropriated. So I thought the easiest thing to do is just go A Shaded View in Fashion Film. And that's how that started. And the first edition was at Jeu de Paume in Jeu de Paume, I never say it right, the Contemporary Art Museum by Concord. And at that time, they had the last days of an Abaddon exhibit because they weren't very fashion oriented, but this fell perfectly. And I showed we had masterclass and we had feature film and short film competition. Jeremy Scott won something for he makes great films. I wish he would make more. He makes
actually films. He did in the whole it's really interesting because he did this like mannequin presentation like right after the pandemic hit, and he basically, I felt like he like dug into his filmmaking and just brought all of that out for the presentation of his spring summer collection. It's really interesting.
Well, the winner of my festival, Colin Dillon, he did dolls also. They were all the same.
I was actually wanted to take a step back really quick and just ask you like what the criteria for fashion film is, and what are the different the categorizations for submissions at the ASBO FF festival?
Yeah, for me, basically, the criteria is the same as a feature film. I like storytelling, although it can be something that's purely, atmospheric, but in general, I really like storytelling. And the clothes, I don't want it to be like obvious, like here's the bag, here's the dress, here's the skirt. To me, that's just not interesting. It's a commercial maybe, but, and we do have a category for branded films. I mean, it's one minor category. There's like a short film festival, which can be anything. It could be an animation, it could be storytelling, or it could be, we have another category this year, digital fashion.
Oh, what is that? Is that like all like motion, like graphics and?
Yes, we're hoping. Well, I haven't seen any submissions for it yet. It just added as a category. I didn't have it before. There's documentaries, and they always show a feature film also. And there's student films. And there's also, I don't know if you ever heard of Arts Thread. Did you ever hear of it?
No, what is that?
It's a a platform that unites like about 800 schools. And they're not just fashion schools, it's art, design, textile, all kinds of levels of creativity. And they could be either in school or recent graduate. So we have a competition with them because I have a channel on FNL Network now. So it's the Arts Thread competition is FNL Network, Arts Thread, and ASVAB. That's one special one. And sustainability, but I mean, I don't know that has to be separate, but we're making it separate this time. I think usually I just incorporate everything. And the requirement is, think about the characteristics of the film. It's like storytelling, art directions, cinematography, sound design, acting, styling. All of those elements together is how we choose what's the best film. And what's interesting is throughout the history of ASVAB and You Wear It Well, you have directors that are really well known, like Bruce Weber or Ellen Von Unworth, people like that. But the winners are always people you never heard of.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, but you've always been like I was saying in the intro, it's just like you've just been a champion for emerging talent, and you have a point of view about what's great and what's innovative because you just see so much that you have the power to do that. And I think that's really beautiful and really inspiring that you stick to it.
I do. I mean, probably on a commercial sense, it'd be better if I was, just doing Gucci, Prada, or whatever, and then you get more sponsors. But I like to, give a platform for creativity. And I spent 13 years of my life as a fashion designer for my own brand and independent. And, I know, and also worked like at Elle.com and Vogue.fr. And I know the link between advertising and who gets coverage. And I'm totally disruptive for that and always have been. So I like to support talent.
And I think that actually even just having A Shaded View on Fashion Film platform and creating this genre, it's actually pushed the fashion industry over the years to become more cinematic, right? At least that's what I've seen. Like a lot of their commercials for these bigger houses, but everyone's thinking you're always with fashion trying to think of what's next and how to present in a more innovative way. And I mean, just what genius to just say no, it's film, right? Like take it to that next step.
Yeah, I want to support directors.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I have two loves in my life. My degree is in filmmaking. That's what I studied, filmmaking and communications. I took 9 months of fashion and I was a designer for my own brand for 13 years. But I love film, I love fashion since I'm like a little kid. I was looking at, in those days, decades ago, there were all these film magazines, not intellectual ones. It was more like photoplay, this and that. And I just, I was fascinated by it more than fashion magazines. I like the fashion in the films, but I like the whole, enter the world of fantasy, which is exactly where we are right now in 2021 with all, let's enter digital fashion. Why do you need to buy the clothes? You can just, buy digital data and wear it, and you can be even more creative because you're wearing fire or metal or whatever. I mean, you could. And to me, if you want to see what I think about the future, that's for me the future that's interesting. It's not people making fashion films right now, that just give you an empty catwalk. Sometimes it works. There are times it works, but in general, I rather take me away, in a film. And I mean, Angel Chen, actually, you know her? She's
No.
really good. She's a Chinese designer. She's living in Shanghai now, but she went to Central St. Martin's and she lived in London a long
Oh.
time. And
Yeah, she was
she's
on that
really,
Netflix show, right? Actually, that my friend
yes,
Ashton was on,
you're
Ashton
right. She
Michael.
was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And she's actually really talented and very into the future and into technology. And she did during COVID, the first one, which was a year ago, her show was it was an empty stage catwalk, but it was all like gaming going on and
Mm.
not gaming to the point of Balenciaga that Demna did, but you had that atmosphere, and so it worked.
Yeah, I
But
think
I,
it's like really fun to see how our paths have like converged again. As like I've just been focused, on producing events. I did stuff like over at TED conferences and started this company happily and just created this whole huge network of emerging event producers and specialists in all the different sort of areas. I also got a degree in film and communication too, and that's my first love. And so when we went virtual and we turned into this whole pandemic, and actually my wedding got canceled, and I thought like, this is great. I get to make a movie now. And
you have to show it to me.
Oh, I'll show you the cyber wedding. You'll love it. It was great because you can, the internet is a weird place and you can get away with so much more. I mean, I had like the floofy dress, I had a bunch of dresses for the real like live in-person wedding in a beautiful rose garden, all of that stuff. But I had to do certain things because their family's there. But I'm like, oh, you're like across the digital divide on another screen. We can do some fun stuff now. And I've seen that like since then, we've just now events, especially everything's on the internet. We're all like dialing in on some social media platform or technology. This is like kind of like a new genre of media where cinema and film plays a really huge part in this. We're having this almost co-directed, co-created, we're all actors and performers in a way, right?
Yeah.
Of this experience.
No, I love it. And I think, you had asked me about, I don't know if it's the time to talk about it, but, how do I feel about, or maybe we show the film first, how did I feel about physical catwalks as opposed to the digital experience?
Right. We've now come into this virtual runway. Well, let's just show people, if we can, a couple of clips from some of the virtual runway presentations where it's, again, like I think it's sort of like runway and film coming together at once. Oh, this is the Virgil Abloh presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wu Sang, who I actually shared an office with, like back in the day, directed this and brought in Saul.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And fabulous. I mean, really creative, really
Very
sharp.
well done. Super well done. I have to say, I wasn't a big fan of Virgil in the beginning. Well, not until actually the past year. I really didn't like what he did, and I knew he copied some people, students and things, young designers, which I didn't really like. But I have to say, he's really upped his game. He's doing a good job.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We can just like scroll through this, Chris, and maybe just like hop to the middle. That was interesting. I mean, it opened up with this very like cinematic experience.
This is great. This was the first collection that Virgil did for Louis Vuitton that I actually liked. And I think it has a soul to it. Before I felt the commercial aspect, but I never felt anything. Here, in a mix with the architecture, it's just
and the
good.
Poetry from Saul Williams is just brilliant, right?
The whole thing, it's just, to me, it's a real success.
Great.
I mean, I couldn't believe I was loving it because I'm not a big fan, but I was saying, you know, one has to be professional. It's
Yes.
like you just you have to judge it by what you see
By
and
what it is. That's
really
right.
good. He's grown a lot in that position. I think that's what you could say.
And
Grown a
then
lot.
let's see like a kind of a different another runway that from the season was that was also very cinematic was Dior, right? Dior
Yeah,
did a totally different presentation.
you have a director like that. Garone is like, you know,
Ugh, just beautiful. I mean, this is film.
so beautiful. I mean, there was a big uproar because everybody was white.
Right.
Oh no, not in this one. The one before that, everybody was white. They did two for Dior. This is the tarot cards, right?
Yeah. That's the one I
The
pulled.
first image was a black girl because they were really
Is that Willow Smith?
criticized before. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful film.
Yeah, and it's like, and this is really interesting because there's not like, even with the Louis Vuitton with Virgil's, there's still like a runway, you know, but this one is like, it's just set in a space and there's a mood and it's different, right? Yeah. And then I want to also show the, and it's like, what is the term? I couldn't remember, like, you know, when you're producing fashion shows, you're either going to do a runway or you're going to do like a collection and people sort of show up to a dinner and then there's
or exhibition or
an exhibition. It was more, it felt like it was the version of that in a way.
Yeah, it's true.
And then I want to show the clip that you brought from TB, right? TB Magugu.
Yes. Young South African designer who I really like because this guy, he did like one of his first collections in Paris. He did a whole photo exhibition. It was sponsored at Sphere by Fédération de Haute Couture. This is all surveillance camera. So the whole thing is when you make a fashion film, there is a whole gamut of how much money you can spend on it. You can spend, you know, hundreds of thousands, like if you do a show also. Or I'm sure this film didn't cost very much to make. And for me, it left an impression. It's a surveillance camera on all these spies that are talking to him. How he got that to happen, I don't know, but
it's beautiful. And like, you know, when you stick with a design or a look, right, and just go for it, like, oh, look at that, that's beautiful, like just 100%, it really comes off versus trying to mash a bunch of things together, right? This is really great.
Yeah, and it's very raw, but it's powerful. So I think, you know, it's never a matter of how much money you have to make the film. Because in the beginning, you were talking about how it evolved from the beginning. In the beginning, I used to have, like, not exactly arguments, because I'm not that argumentative, but conflicts with agents of film directors who were really photo agents. Forcing their photographers to be filmmakers because that's where it's at. And I'd say, you know, it's beautiful, the clothes are beautiful, makeup, but it's like a photo shoot movement. You know, it's not a film. And they'd say, but it's shot with the red camera. And I'm like, yeah.
Right.
It's still not a film. You know, a film director has different qualities and abilities than a still photographer. You know, a frozen image is a frozen image and it's beautiful and you control it all. But when the camera starts, you know, when you have a director and you have other qualities, other, you know, things, you've got like a sound design, you have storytelling, which you could have in a still image, of course. You have kind of art direction and what you don't have in a still you only have in film is editing. Editing is what editors are like alchemists. Without a good editor, you have nothing. You know?
It's so true. I mean, look, and even like now, like we're in a virtual event. I mean, this is a broadcast. It's very different than the runway shows that we were seeing, right? There's just so much more cast, crew, imagination, story, everything, just so much preparation and thought that's like really brought together versus we're having, a conversation and a chat, which is beautiful in its own space, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's this huge experience. It doesn't make it something that it's not, right?
Well, we've gotten to the point that we like intimacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people have, and I thought of it myself, but I never did it because I didn't want people in my space. I thought, oh, I should have one of those fake, like green screen backdrop.
Oh, I hate those.
You always see that white line circle around there. Yeah, it never quite works.
Yeah.
I know, it is what it is. I've broken the spell,
Yeah, the fourth wall. So, you're always the first to see and welcome in new talent. Just my last question, like which fashion filmmakers and designers maybe should we be following?
Well, I think what's really interesting is Fabricant, because that's something new, totally new. It's just digital fashion. I don't have any. I imagine it's just data. I imagine it could be made into a real piece if you wanted it. But that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing. They're going to have digital fashion. But I like CB a lot. I like people like Glenn Martins at Y Project. I always like Rick Owens. I like, oh God, who else that's new, brand new? I don't know, Phoebe's the one that I'm watching, and Alexander Blanc. It's more classic, but it's quite beautiful. I think the thing now is everything is getting more local with COVID and also with landfill, carbon footprint, and everything. That's that artisanal aspect. I think as a direction, that's the direction we're going in. And that's interesting. And as far as filmmakers, for like documentaries, I love Ivan Olita. He has humor, beautifully shot. He's really good. I mean, he does commercial stuff too, but he did the image in the back for the poster. It was on this tattoo artist in LA. And
I love that.
So good. It was so good. I love this guy, Brando De Sica. His grandfather is Victoria De Sica, the bicycle thief. He does beautiful films. He's not like these aren't necessarily fashion film makers. They're film directors. The guy that I work with, I think is brilliant. He hasn't made fashion films. Well, he does things for Louis Vuitton. But he's just a filmmaker. He's more into horror films and things like that. But he's great. His name is Juan Villarreal, and I love his work. Just the first time we talked about a film, he made his first short film that went everywhere to all these film festivals, whether it was in Japan or, Les Tranches Festival de Film in Paris, everywhere. It was great. It was about like the story of a prisoner, the last meal they have in jail. But I won't go into it, but it was great. And the filmmaker I really loved that I found when I was on the jury at Sapporo Short Film Festival, Justin Ambrosio, he made a film that got the grand prize, and it was called Hungry for Love. It was great. I mean, we're talking food, but food is important.
Without it, you will not survive. So,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Jessica Mitrani. Also it's really funny when at Cannes or for the Oscars, they're always complaining there aren't enough women filmmakers. I've always had so many women filmmakers, and they won big prizes, and they're just great. I never had a problem of not representing women in film. It's just, and it's not a conscious, nothing I do is, forced. It's like the film is good. That's the
Cool.
judgment.
Exactly. That's the criteria.
Whether they're, a specific color we're supposed to be promoting, or gender or no gender or transgender. I don't care. It just happens organically. They're good. So,
well, I think it's like when you're a safe space, right? The everybody finds you. It doesn't matter where they're from. So I've always found that to be the case where it just happens that way. And when there's a problem, I really do applaud folks who take the initiative to identify like that they are having what do they call it, a pipeline problem, and try to resolve for that.
yeah.
Because I think, but it's true when you're pure and you're like core to who you are and who, and being accepting of other people, it just happens. It's like not that difficult.
Like I was thinking, because so much now is greenwashing and, forcing things that should be natural. Maybe you have to force them in order for them to grow into being natural. I don't know. But I was thinking, like, when I was a designer, my models were Black, they were Asian, they were everything because they were beautiful. Nobody told me you better have a Black, and now you just look at it and it's like, it just looks so fake,
Yeah.
I can't stand it. But, maybe it has to be that way in order for change. I don't know. But back in the 80s, I wasn't the only one that was thinking like that. We were just,
right.
It was normal, Then suddenly it wasn't.
Yeah. We're going through so much. I think like it's there's just so much awakening, right, that has happened.
Yeah.
So COVID has shaken us. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, they have all shaken
God.
us, right?
Yeah.
And also climate change. Look what happened in Texas. The fires the past few years. I think it's just
horrible.
We're just I think on an en masse scale, we're all being confronted, with the decisions or choices that were conscious or subconscious. But they are now like surface to the consciousness, which is fantastic. And I think it's so interesting that you think that the future is really digital fashion and creating things. So of course you can like push things even further. And of course, once we're thinking about sustainability, that's the move.
I think so, because when you think about it, if everybody is like worried about what they're wearing on Instagram or whatever, Reels, Snapchat, whatever, if you could make it really something amazing, which is also affordable, it could be 60 euros or 700 euros. It's not 70,000 euros, and, maybe, for me, I always dress to suit myself. So, maybe it's strange to someone, but to me, it's quite normal. But there are people that have some hidden personality inside that never expresses itself or can express itself. But suddenly you're like in a gaming situation or, some kind of virtual thing. And you can be this other person.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. To me, that's the future. That's where I want to see it. I'd love to be in a game myself. I can't afford to have it made, but I would love like that whole, because to me, that's just great. I just love it.
Yeah, it'd be so fun. I'm the same way, where I was like, one day I'm going to make a video game. Like I grew up on video games, and so I totally understand that world. Well, okay, let's like make sure that we stay in touch. I'm really looking forward to seeing the submissions that come through and make the cut for A Shaded View on fashionfilm.com. It's in its 13th season. You're accepting filmmaker submissions now, right?
Yes,
What is the deadline?
the deadline's July 31st, and what you should do is you should go to filmfreeway.com/ASVOFF and submit. Students are welcome. Everyone is welcome. Artists.
Yeah, that's great. Send, and there's enough time. You can create something and be a part of this. I mean, it is just such an amazing community of creators and makers and dreamers, to be a part of. So,
Dreamers, I like it.
Of course, they're dreaming up, all these fantastical things. So, Diane, thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it's so lovely to see you. Have a great day.
You too. Sleep well. Oh, you're up for a while.
Yeah, I know. Au revoir.